Good afternoon from Spain. Today, I want to talk about relationships and why they fail with Filipinos. Now, the first thing I want to say is that this isn't just relating to the Philippines. This actually is much broader than that, in the sense that it's people with partners going to the West. Um, I can't really talk about too much relating to people that have met people in Spain, etc., in Europe or whatever, because already the woman's already westernized. So there could be a lot of other reasons there. I'll start with the guy side. The guy side, I would say, a lot of the time in or out the Philippines, one of the problems that people have is vices. The drinking, drugs, women. The women issues normally in the Philippines. Morning, Tim. How's it going? Tim Rogers joins us. Yeah, so the women issue is normally a big one. There's a guy I met in Bohol. He was asking for some help. His wife was really bad to him. Blah blah blah. It's like, okay, what happened? It's like, well, she's took me for the house. She's done it. It's like, so what's the cause of it? It's like, well, I like the bar girls. I like the bar. It's like, you created this yourself. I mean, at the end of the day, nobody made you get married, and now that you're married, you have an issue with it. There's a prime example of somebody that's like a kid in a sweet shop when they've gone to the Philippines. Vices can be a big problem and detrimental to the relationship. But also you have guys that go to the Philippines and find that their time is suddenly, they have too much time available to them. So what happens is they then start drinking at 10 in the morning or whatever, and it becomes a pattern. So the relationship that the woman was expecting suddenly changed. If you hear noise outside, by the way, I've got some electric cables being run by the electric company. But the vices can be a problem. And the thing is, a lot of the guys I know with these issues blame the woman. It is nothing to do with the woman whatsoever. It's the guy has done this himself, but except that they are the fly in the ointment. Tim Rogers says, my only vice is Pizza Hut. Yeah, you're in good stead then. The next one is subservience. They treat the women as if they're class citizen. I've seen somebody like jingling their glass, wanting more ice in it, etc., as if they married, well, in a relationship with a waitress or something. I wouldn't even do that to a waitress, so I can't really comment on that. But the thing is, people assume this is all fine. The woman just accepts this. She'll put up with this. But at the end of the day, she's sitting there thinking in her head what she's going to do to you. There's no way she's going to let you away with that long term. Something will happen, I'm sure. So yeah, subservience is another issue, which gets me on to my next point, which is the attitude to relationships. You need to adapt to the relationship. You've got to understand that there's two people in the relationship, and to get it to work, everybody's sort of got to meet in the middle somewhere. But I do see some guys going, well, she does her thing, I do my thing, blah blah blah. Okay, that's fine if you're happy with that, but if you got seriously sick, is she going to still be there? Maybe not. If you run out of money, is she going to be there? Maybe not. And this is why you've got to have some sort of commitment to each other. You know, you've got to have something that actually connects beyond the guy pays the bills and the woman's looks after the guy. You know, there's got to be a lot more going on. You know, I know a lot of guys go, well, I don't really want to know, whatever. That's fine, but you can't complain when it fails. And it is a reason why a lot of relationships do fail. Which gets me on to the next one, which is low investment in a relationship. This can be on multiple levels. It can be financial. The fact that you keep so much money away from the relationship because you're worried about being ripped off by the girl or whatever. But I also say on that same instance, then why bother with a relationship as well? You might as well just be girlfriend, boyfriend, or whatever, because if you've got no commitment into a relationship, you can't expect commitment from the other party. I'm not saying risk your life savings or anything like that, but having some sort of commitment in some way, benefits both parties and also gets appreciated. I know some guys put their wife through college, for example, because although they are obviously past school age, they've gone back to college so that if the guy eventually pops his clogs, the woman can stand her own 2 feet. You know, she's got a nursing degree or whatever. So yeah, investment in relationships is an important one, but it often gets overlooked. The next one would be don't want to leave the Philippines. A lot of guys retire in the Philippines. Now, I would say if you're getting into a relationship, clarify that with your partner, because a lot of guys don't. And then the girl will still hang around, but she ain't happy because she wants to leave. So you have to bear that in mind. So it is worth saying, well, you know, if you go on a dating site, for example, and just say, I'm moving to the Philippines, you'll probably find 70% of the people will leave the live chats, you know, and the communications because they want to leave. They don't want to live in the Philippines. They've done that. They want to see the world. So bear that in mind. If you're getting into a relationship, make it one of the first things you bring up, because that way you can save yourself time and save them some time, because if you're not interested in leaving again, then that's fine. If they hang around, you're probably onto a woman worth meeting. Yeah, now we're on to the girl side. The girl side, the relationship failure is pre-planned. That's one of the things that does happen. These can be from scamming. This is where somebody's in like multiple relationships with multiple guys and arriving at different times of the year. She knows that they're not all going to be there at the same time. And then I've seen people that, I mean, there was one girl, she had five guys that had paid for the rent and furniture on one apartment 5 times. The children that were hanging around when I mean, at least one of these guys visited were hers, although she said they were neighbors or something else. But she'd even like got as far as an engagement and got an engagement ring and all this sort of stuff. And then as things got to a level where there's going to be a level of commitment, she started making up big excuses for the whole thing failing. That happens because those ones are there for the money. And I know some guys take it personally. Just treat them as a crook. Don't see yourself as you've done something wrong. Just see it as they ripped you off. They're a crook. They do this as a profession. They spend time grooming people in the same way that other people that do abuse do. They're professionals at this. They make a living from it. So just take it on the chin. But as soon as you start seeing red flags in a relationship, protect yourself. Start putting other things there that can highlight other red flags. You know, if they suddenly say, well, I need Western Union because something that happened or whatever, turn around and say, oh, I don't get paid for another 2 weeks or whatever. And then when it does come, you say, oh, I can't afford it this month. You know, because at the end of the day, you want to try and get them to bring stuff to the surface, because they'll have a whole list of things they're going to try. You know, first thing is try and get Western Union. Next thing is somebody's sick and all this sort of stuff. And look for it. Another one where this is pre-planned is it's often not the person you're talking to. There is mothers, aunts, uncles, other relatives that coerce people into doing this stuff, and they go along with it. So even if it's not a scam relationship, in the sense that you're going to get ripped off before you even arrive, even if you get married, the person that you're marrying may not even be committed to the relationship. It's because somebody has told them it's worth getting married for the money. You've got to take that on board. You know, you get a better feel for the people around the person you're marrying, and also get a better understanding of the person. Which gets on to the next point, which is a money cow, where this comes in different colors. The one where you're sending money every month, the one where you're living in the Philippines paying all the bills, or the one where you're a permanent life partner and they don't have to worry about things. The big problem with being a money cow is that it's convenient at the time you have cash. If something happened to you or something happened with your cash flow, that commitment can disappear just as rapidly as it appeared. That's one of the things I'd be very cautious of. Next one I would say is family. family can often be a help or a hindrance. As I mentioned earlier, with the pre-planned, where they're coerced into doing things, family can also be not wanting the foreigner as part of their family. They can also be manipulating things by calling up asking for money. They could be calling up asking at 2 o'clock in the morning. They asking for little emergency fund. Little Johnny's sick at the hospital, but also suddenly expecting you to fund the siblings of your partner going through school. You need to lock onto that and nip it in bud quite early on, because the more you give into it, the bigger it gets. It always does. Next one is lack of independence. Now, this ties in with the family above as well, because going abroad, a lot of women like their own independence. They like to make their own money, but also the family issues that they are committed to ties in with that, because if they're earning their own money, family out. I know this even creates arguments at that point, because as a friend of mine says, why the hell should his wife be working 14, 16 hours a day to pay for her lazy family back in the Philippines? And that's his own words. Because at the end of the day, he's working full time. He pays all the bills in the UK, but at the same time, she is sending every penny back to the Philippines, and they're just wasting it. They're laughing. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's like laughing behind somebody's back when you abuse it in that way. But he can't stop her doing it. She's just completely blind to it, and she will do till she probably hits the grave. John Parrish, you marry a Pinoy, you marry the family. And he said, I'm not sick. Yeah, but the thing is, John, I think you've been overseas with your wife anyway, so you know exactly what it's about. If your wife's got a Western mindset and a bit switched on and wise to the world, it's a little bit different. A lot of this stuff happens where people are a bit naive locally. But like I say, my friend's wife, she sends every penny home, and they just waste it. There is nothing left. They've done nothing with the money. It's not building a house or paying medical bills. They're drinking it. They're living as if they're living they're living the dream while she's doing 16 hours a day, wiping old people's backsides in a care home. What a life. Yeah, bit of a rant there. Fake relationships. This is probably an interesting one, but I've seen this. This is where people get into a relationship and have no understanding of the commitment they've made. This is where people have sort of talked them into marrying a foreigner or whatever, and then they're sitting there thinking, okay, I can do this. I like sitting on the cell phone, sitting on the sofa all day, doing nothing, but have no real understanding of what it really means to be A, married to anybody, but B, haven't even thought where they're going to be next week. Never mind that this is a commitment for life. This often happens where somebody is like a younger member in the family and have had all their life mapped out for them. You're going to this school, you're going to this college, your siblings will pay for your schooling, etc. And they haven't had to think for themselves. So when they get into these relationships, they're not used to having the ability to think for themselves or adapt. This is one of the frustrating things. Is they suddenly going, I don't like this. Why I don't like this? They don't say that I should have thought about this more. If they actually said that, they would have thought about it more. But they don't. They get themselves into relationships. They get into a whirlwind, because I know guys as well. They often find the woman, go there. I love her. I'm going to marry this woman. I love her. She's the love of my life. And then bang, they do it both ends, and then it's like, this isn't working. So yeah, fake relationships, a bit naive. That's a big one. And Tim Rogers just brought up a good one: how to deal with tempo. Tempo is something you've either got to accept or you're going to get frustrated with. Tempo is where Filipino people will basically just ignore you, sit there, don't want to talk to you. It's very, very common. In the UK, it's like a kid's tantrum. But in the Philippines, you come across it, somebody won't talk to you for the entire day, and then tomorrow they act as if nothing ever happened. I think dealing with it, Tim, you've got to understand the person you're dealing with, because some people you're better off just ignoring for the day and go and do something else. Other people, it's more a case of finding out what is wrong with them, because sometimes you have no idea what the problem is whatsoever, because it's something that they don't want to talk about and won't tell you about, but at the same time you have no understanding what to create the issue in the first place. John Parrish, hi guys, Matt has some good info, some obvious stuff for you guys. Chismis. Yeah, chismis is gossip. This is where, or chismoso, it's where people talk about you and they make stuff up. I suppose it's a bit like Chinese whispers sometimes. It starts off with something very simple, and by the time it gets through about 10 people, it's some great story that's good for a tabloid. Yeah, it's gossip. It's people talking behind your back, and some of this is crab mentality. Some of it is people just wanting to outdo the last person because they had a bit of information off somebody, so then they add to it. It just ends up completely miles away from where it started. But sometimes it can affect relationships because happen. An example of this is a broader sense of it, but I think it's probably a good example. There's a guy I know who rents out some apartments. He got to the Philippines. His Canadian girlfriend, he found out, was already with other women. Sorry, with other guys, not other women. So he went off the rails I think he was there for 2 weeks. Now, he was having women back to those apartments every night, different women, to the point that the Habal guys changed the name of Habal is the motorbike taxis. Habal is actually a motion related to pigs. it's just something anyway. But thing is, they changed the name to something effing street, and they're all orientated around these apartments that was for rent, because this guy brought these women back, different women every night, and these guys are picking them up from the main corner, taking them to the apartments. That's a prime example of chismis, because they now, instead of it being one guy off the rails because his girlfriend was cheating on him, it's now a guy that is running a brothel. That's an example. It just goes from one extreme, from something very simple to very extreme very quickly. Chismis, gossip, people stirring it up just for the sake of it. John Parry says, I have a neighbor right opposite me. Some days he talks so much I can't get rid of him. One day later he thanks me. I think he thinks I print money in my back room. Yeah, they do that. It's bizarre what comes out of some people's mouths. But the superstitious stuff, it's a bit strange. I've sat and had conversations with not just with pregnant women, about the whacks, these witches that crawl along the roofs and stuff when looking for pregnant women and things. And they're serious. They are serious about this stuff. And it's just like, if people believe that sort of stuff, you can see why they believe that you're printing money in your back room. Because if they can assume that these witches are crawling around on the roof looking for their pregnant woman and stuff, then they're certainly looking for you. You must be printing money in your back room, because it makes sense. This is a bizarre thing. That's the old chismis stuff. It's just bizarre, some of the stuff people come out with. It's why you sometimes have to be very careful what you say to people, where you go with the conversation, etc., because eventually it'll come full circle. For example, if you said, saying with your neighbor there, if you said the neighbor blah 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 was doing this and saying this about me, at some point another neighbor would come back to that neighbor with a completely different story. But John's been talking about you, and he says that you XYZ, because they like to stir it up. John Parrish, another time my wife was afraid to put pictures on Facebook in case they think we are rich. Then Auntie Edna dies or needs help. Yeah, well, I'll be honest, I limit the types of photography I put on Facebook, because I don't want to look vulgar either. I don't like showing any excess wealth in any form. It's the same as, well, like, even when you're going to some places, you try not to show it in a boastful way, because I do see some people do it, you know, like, look at my Prada handbag, look at this, and you're like, that's just so vulgar. To me, it's just vulgar. But at the same time, they're creating a nightmare for themselves, because the family are going, oh, look how much they can afford. They don't even mention it's a Hong Kong knockoff. It's just a case of, oh, yeah, they can afford Prada. They can afford it. And even when you say it's not the real thing, they go, yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because you're foreign. You can afford this. Yes, it is. Oh, like you say, Auntie Edna needs an operation, or that. It's like, oh, John can afford that. I've seen the photos of his wife's handbags. You know, that's what happens. That's what, it's just not worth getting into that. And they said relationships do go south. John Parrish travels. I meant, mate, I'm on SM right now. Yeah, nothing wrong with San Miguel. Relaxing, stress-free evening. Now, next one I want to talk about is both parties, where things do go wrong. And I know this is quite an expansive topic, but I do think it's a good one for people to talk about. It's communication. The amount of relationships I see where people aren't even, they might as well not know each other, the way they act in the same room. You know, I've seen it at birthday parties, I've seen it at expat pool parties and stuff, where the women go and sit in one corner, the guys go and sit in a nipper hut or whatever, and they're completely separate. Now, I've seen somebody say, well, that, you know, that's culturally normal, blah, blah, blah. I would say to a point, but a lot of these guys are like it all the time. I've been to some guys' houses where their wives just sat texting on the phone all day, and they're not in a relationship. It's as if the sofa is a bubble for the woman. She's texting her friends and communicating with them, but not talking to the guy right in front of her. It's just a relationship of convenience. But the problem is, a relationship of convenience is as easy as it was made, as easy as it is to break. Yeah, that, John Parrish, that's a nice picture of Ital. I'll have you any money. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just don't get into those things. It's just, delete, ban, block is also a very good thing for Facebook and other things. Just like, oh, I accidentally deleted you 2 years ago. Yeah, if people are asking for money, I don't get those things, to be honest. We really don't have that hassle. I mean, most of the time, it's more to do with well, a lot of stuff we get is actually related to expats. It's not actually related to the family. But yeah, we don't really get into those problems too much. But communication is a very important thing, and it's also understanding where people want to be in the relationship, because you got to understand that you got two people there. One guy, the guy wants his way of life, and the woman wants her way of life. And sometimes they're on completely different pages. So it's worth just sitting there going, what do you want to do in the next 20 years or something? I know a lot of time you get, oh, I'm just happy with being with you, or things like that. It's like, no, that's not what I want to hear. What do you want to actually do? You know, after the honeymoon period, what are we going to do? What hobbies do you have? Because a lot of time there isn't anything. Because they've had, some of these people have had a pre-planned life by relatives. They don't even see that they need to plan their futures. So trying to communicate with somebody into a new mindset, but some guys don't even bother. They just like live these separate lives almost, because it's convenient. But at the same time, when something does happen, something serious can happen, because it's not organized. It's not a relationship based on emotion, attachment, commitment, or anything else. It's just a relationship based on convenience. Another one I would say is they don't like each other. This occurs now and again. This is where a guy's met somebody online, gone and got married, blah, blah, blah. 6 months down the line, they've met somebody else. They've seen somebody else that they find more interesting, more attractive, whatever it is. But because the relationship was never at a deeper level in the first place, then they haven't committed to it even in that 6 months, but also now somebody's come along and they found that they've just clicked, and that happens. But also you have relationships where we've talked about some of the vices and stuff on the guy's side before. The girl will put up with it while it suits. If everything's being dealt with, bills or whatever the guy is doing, they may not do anything. But you may find that if they're given an opportunity, they'll use it. And this is one of the reasons things fail. This is why some of the businesses fail, because what happens is that smiling, loving person that somebody spent the last year or so with suddenly realize she's in the position of power because everything's in her name, and she's fed up with the drunken husband or whatever, and then uses it because she can oust the husband because she's in the position of doing it. So you've got to be aware. This is why it's important to try and get these relationships working properly, because if you don't, you set yourself up for a fall. And one thing I will say, the guys that do fail in these relationships, they'll go online and complain about X, Y, Z, but they will not cover their side of the story with what they were doing. So you never get a true picture of reality. You get a distorted view where they don't mention what they were doing. They don't mention what the root causes were. But a lot of this stuff we've covered is exactly the problems that you'll come across. There is obviously more. Last but not least is a marriage of convenience. The marriage of convenience works so far, because you'll get the guys, like the realistic, thinking, well, this 20-something girl, she likes me, but she doesn't love me. We haven't committed to a relationship yet. We don't know each other that well. Can't really take it any further than that. And then the girl's thinking, well, this guy can pay my bills. He'll do X, Y, Z, and we'll just sit. We'll be happy with that. But then you have the other side of this. Later on, where that marriage convenience is based on two people, you then get the family issues, where the family see that she's married to a rich foreigner that earns enough to live in a house, is rich. We'll just keep it at that. So then the girl is then getting hassled for money. And if this is a marriage of convenience and you don't really have that communication, that can become a problem, because things start to become a problem where things could disappear from the house, money disappears, whatever, because she's getting hassled from the family. In the same way, if the guy gets sick or loses his money for whatever reason, the girl will go. If she gets a better offer, she will go. And obviously, if your boyfriend, girlfriend, are not married, comes along, she may just take it, because at the end of the day, it's not a proper relationship. It's a relationship of convenience. So I would say these are the things I would watch out for a lot of guys. You got to just sit there and look at it from the two sides. What do you need to put in the relationship, and what do you expect out of it? And also looking at it from the other person's perspective. Because if you do it right, you ain't going to have any hassles. Life's pretty good. I love my time in the Philippines. I'm happily married. I've got no issues. And you got to decide what you may be better off being single. At the end of the day, if you want to go out and party and stuff on a regular basis, don't get married. Don't get in a relationship. Just live a life as a single guy. Nothing wrong with that. Because it's when you get married, you may find that you start hitting some serious problems, because if you upset the woman, especially in her hometown where you've embarrassed her, it may become quite difficult for you. Anyway, thanks, guys. Thanks for everybody who's joined us. And John's got one more. Parrish, I'm sure you played the field back in the old days, Matt. I know I did. I had a 19-year-old girl who loved me so much, she decided to call me my wife, no ex. How much? Laugh out loud. Funny but true. Yeah, when I was younger. I've been through my party years. I mean, I used to party pretty hard. I mean, back in the old days, I've been unconscious on the floor from partying, we started drinking at 8 o'clock. I think it was about midnight. I passed out and I turned blue, and then about half an hour later, woke up and then went back down to have some more beer. Yeah, I partied hard in the old days, but these days I'm more into just enjoying life. I'd rather spend more time doing photography than chasing women. I'm happily married. You know, at the end of the day, I've committed to marriage, and although some people don't see it as a commitment in that way, for me and my wife, it's basically a life commitment. That's it. I mean, we said that at day one. If we're going to get married, marriage is for life. No way or nothing in between. Nothing to get out of. There's no divorce. There's the commitments for life. And I think if more people did that, there'll be a lot happier relationships in the world. I'm not getting more religious. I have no religion. I mean, it's just that I have a commitment to contracts. So I'm probably a corporate religion person, really, because I'll commit to a contract to to completing a task. It may sound very stale in that version, but you know, marriage is marriage for me. I'm only getting married once, and I'm married to April. And that's it. But yeah, the old days, I'd done partying, but not in the sense of being in a relationship at the time. Quite simply, I was well aware and smart enough to know that nobody was in a relationship. So we were just enjoying the college years of just partying 5 to 7 days a week, and still coming out with our qualifications. Bolsa, I don't know what the book... I'll have to look that up. I don't know what that is. I'll have a look, John. But yeah. Anyway, I'm going to cut this one off. Thanks for everybody joining us. And I'm really happy the guys that are doing the running the pipes with the generator outside my house have actually stopped long enough for me to do this video. If you like the video, well, I call these podcasts, the live chats, please like and share the videos. Because there's plenty of information in here, by the way. If you go back through the original videos, because there's nearly 700 videos on this channel now, there's a lot of stuff relating to the Philippines. I spent nearly a decade in the Philippines. So the stuff I've done is based on that time scale. So everyone, have a great day. Please go through what we call a back catalog, I suppose. There's a lot of stuff buried in there because quite simply there's just so many videos, but I'm sure you'll find some of it useful. Have a great weekend. And John Parrish, have a great weekend, mate. Take care. All the best. April's a good one, like so many. Exactly. And this is what I say about these things. If you prepare yourself, it's not about running anybody down. It's more a case of preparing yourself and looking for the little red flags that turn around and say, this is a good relationship, this is a bad relationship, but also you know, because sometimes the guys come out of a bad relationship, or a woman's come out of a bad relationship, they've still got issues relating to the relationship they've left. So it may be better to just chill out, spend a bit of time alone, and just taking your time, you know, being happy. Anyway, thanks guys. Have a great weekend.